That doesn't echo me out. Cool. Saying we're live already, right?
It does, sir.
I say we're live already. Awesome. I'm just checking it. Cool. So we are very, very lucky. Bit of an association superstar. We've got Jeff Curran with us tonight, who is a veteran of pretty much all of the major MMA organizations out there, and an awesome instructor, and has got a really good reputation within the association. Black belt under Pedro Sauer, and is a 4th degree. Is that right?
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, really lucky. Thank you again for jumping on.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, and we know you've had a bit of a tough time, a bit like us, with lockdown and stuff, and getting going again with the academy and stuff like that. And we were just talking before the podcast about Jeff's now back up and training, and we're excited to start training for the first time this weekend and get the guys back together again. So what was it like that first time you got everyone back together again? Did you get good response? And
yeah, we had about 25 guys. I started with one of my normal night classes where I had more of my old school guys, not like a beginner class or like a kids class. I wanted to launch the reopening with some of my longer running guys. A lot weren't ready to come back yet. A lot able to. I think a lot of them aren't even on social media or paying attention to email, so they don't know. They check the website. The website's not. We had about 25 guys. That's about all that the new handle for the time being. So small class, good for me. But it was awesome. I got to at least have some face-to-face connection with a lot of the people who've had my back through the whole thing. And, I had such a good group of people that still paid tuition and still let the money roll in for us a little bit to pay bills and at least not completely plunder to our death. It's not ideal, but it was a big help, and it was nice to see those guys face to face.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, we're looking forward to it tomorrow. It'd be nice to see everyone. What did you sort of do during? Were you doing? Because I'm sure you've got a sort of big library of stuff anyway. But did you do live classes and stuff with your guys whilst you were not allowed to train?
We did. I'm not good at Zoom at all. I tried a couple of things that my wife does with her kids at the school. Zoom, I'm not good at. I attempted it, didn't fare well. So we would just do live streams, and then a couple private live streams a week. And then I was filming so much for my online video site, jeffcurran.tv, and that I'm getting ready to launch soon. So I was filming a lot. So when I would fall short and feel like I needed to still keep my schedule, we would share that link privately with our members. Also, a couple of my good friends, the Rezovic family in Chicago, opened up their online online school free for my guys for 6 months. Pedro opened up his for free for a while. So, but after a while, everybody was like, man, there's nothing worse than watching jiu-jitsu videos every day and not being able to do it, So people just I don't need more. They would rather, the thing that they liked the most, I was doing these live stream talks where we would just sit around and, talk with everybody live, and people could ask questions, and we would pull in fight footage. I don't know if you guys seen any of those, but it was cool because I could kind of sit around a little loose and, drink some beers and have fun have kind of a happy hour with some of the guys. People from around the country chimed in and said hello and whatnot. So that was fun. But it all just gets old. Can't train. So getting back on the mat was big for me. I think one of the things that really prepared me for it was I never really wanted to stop fighting in MMA. So being kind of for more reasons than one, kind of forced, but also the smart move was probably to retire. Not being able to do something that you love to do and train for it and things like that was a big adjustment for me. So not being able to train jujitsu, I kind of treated it like retirement, and like maybe I'll come out of retirement soon and get back on the mat, or knowing I'll come out of retirement and get back on the mat. It gives me a peace of mind that it's not forever.
Jeff, are you giving us an exclusive there? Are you coming out of retirement on the MMA as well?
I would only talk about that privately. I'd put it out publicly, and it would be, and my wife heard it. Would be, no, I honestly, I am not. I'm probably certain I can fight again someday in my life, whether it's once or another 10 times. I don't know, but at least once. I don't know where and when. We were trying to get something with. Then I was talking with another show here in the country, Titan. Brave. They had gave an offer like a couple of years ago, another year and a half ago, and some 25-year-old kid, 12 and up, maybe that's not what I want. I'm turning 43, and maybe I don't want to fight the notch on somebody's belt. So I'm just trying to thank God we have not thank God, but thank God I have nowhere to fight right now, nowhere to really train hard. So I can just kind of make that excuse and not have to worry about coming out of retirement for the 4th or 5th time.
What is it that keeps you? What is it that keeps you going back? You said you love the MMA, but what about it was it that keeps you going back?
I think I think what it did for me overall, like since I was a kid preparing to kind of push me through different times in my life when I was that when by the time I hit 19 years old and I made my debut and got a 8-man tournament, it was like, it just reminds me into those time period where I feel like I'm really in control of my life and I'm chasing dreams and chasing things that I love to do. And when I do jujitsu tournaments and train for jujitsu, it's like a different mindset for me. I don't ever really get too nervous. I go out and do it for fun. I like to represent, but there was always something about fighting somebody who was a guy that was a bit really appealing to me. Proving myself to them. Whereas when you're fighting another jiu-jitsu black belt, you're kind of like, one of us is going to win. One of us is going to lose. And if I lose, I'm losing to good jiu-jitsu. So it's a little easier for me to swallow. So it's something about fighting that's just a little different risk factor and a little bit more, I guess everything else in my life has to just take a back seat and I just got to be selfish. Of course, I can't do that to the extent that I used to before I had kids and, things like that. But now that they're older, they help me train, and they're already still trying to make me train. If I pick up some junk food or something out of my hand, I'm like, I'm retired. I can want. You're going to come back.
I'm interested in that, the psychology, you're saying with a jiu-jitsu tournament, kind of, it doesn't feel like there's kind of as much on the line and it's kind of easy to be a bit more relaxed. Did you get over the nerves for the MMA stuff? I can't imagine ever getting over the nerves to deal with that situation effectively.
There's really, you just find ways to fake it. It's the nerves is probably the reason why a lot of people do it. But I think more I used to think I knew exactly why I fought. Now I'm more just like, why did I like to do that? But then I think about it and my body just gets all get ready for it. The preparation is just challenging too. And the intensity of the moment and sitting in the locker room, just feeling the overall fear of what am I doing? And you're so scared, but unless you want to completely ruin your reputation, you got to go out there and do it. When you step in the cage and the cage door shuts, thing changes. I'm not nervous at all. It's weird. You'll have all the way to the cage. Your legs are heavy. You sweat. You're shaking. feel like your heart's pounding, you know, everything different. But as soon as the fight starts, you're not nervous at all. And that never goes away, away from me. Jiu-jitsu is different too. Like, I want to represent my jiu-jitsu. I want Pedro to be happy. I want him to look at me and say, you know, he's proud of me. And I don't want to go out and have somebody like whoop. So I get really amped up for eating jiu-jitsu. I'm just not afraid of anything, if that makes sense. I'm not worried about getting knocked out. I'm not worried about getting completely humiliated. I believe in myself, you know, that I go out there, and if somebody beats me, then I learn something new, and it's not the end of the world. But with MMA, if you lose, it was a big set. You have to dig back, and your career takes a huge hit.
Yeah. I'm always impressed. Like, it's just the idea of jiu-jitsu tournaments, I find fine. But yeah, the idea of doing striking and stuff, having done a fair bit of sparring and stuff when we were training before jiu-jitsu, but actually fighting in front of everyone terrified me. I just didn't have the guts to do it sort of live like that. So yeah, I'm always really interested in how other people feel about it, and especially someone that's done it on your level.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty loose in the locker room. I train and I joke around, I have fun. You know, I just, in my head, you got all those things I was talking about. I try not to show it. It taxes your energy levels, you know, if you let it. So I think that's a big part of just like building it to the point where it doesn't explode out, but building it to a point where you have enough that it's going to get you through enough fear that you're going to get through the fight using the little bits and pieces of that.
That makes sense. So how did you, rewinding massively, how did you originally meet Professor Master Sauer, Pedro, and how did that all start?
I have a weird start. I was big into karate for years as a kid, and when I was around 14 years old, one of my friends that I trained karate with, Tom, he got kicked out of the local school that we were at. Like, he punched some kid in the face and gave him a bloody nose, and so he got kicked out, and he went and found us to train. And at this time, Bruce Lee was getting to be so popular that everything was about like being like effective. You got to have effective martial arts. You can't just do katas, and you can't just do point sparring. You got to have something that has real value. And he was just touring around town, and he found that the place had this guy, Adam Miller, who was running. He had just went to a Hickson Gracie seminar, and he was like a judo brown belt, I think, and a Hapkido black belt, and whatever else he was doing there. And the lady who owned the school had let him add a ground fighting class, he called it, on Wednesdays. And this is all pre-UFC. This is before the UFC happened. And Tom's like, "Oh man, it's just like wrestling. You'll like it. Come check it out." Because I wrestled 4th grade, 4th, 5th, 6th, 4th through 8th grade, whatever that is, 5 years. I got grade school wrestling. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll come check it out. And we went there on a Wednesday night, and we learned a straight arm bar. We learned like Americana and the mount position and like a hip throw, a couple basics. And he gave us these little hands of the moves that he learned. He drew them up, copies. And I was like, man, this is awesome. I'm going to come back next week, but let's get together tomorrow at your house or my house and practice what we learned. And we did that all week long. And we, back then, guys, there was no social media, we didn't have what we have today. So I was just driving around to every store, buying every martial arts magazine I could, trying to find anything that said anything about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And I came across a seminar app for Megaton. So Wellington Megaton Diaz was doing a like 2.5 hours from my house. And I went there. That was a couple weeks before I started. I went there. I met him. He gave me his business card. And for a month, I took a trip to Arizona and spent the next probably 3 years nonstop going back and forth to Arizona. I would work work after school, a couple days a week, work weekends, doing flooring, save money, buy and go stay with Megaton. He let me live with him. So that was my start. Like, I did years with Megaton, and then we had a really bad falling out when I was 17. Big misunderstanding is another really, really long story, but he just didn't really treat me right. So we kind of like, screw this, I'm going to go somewhere else. And I joined Carlson Gracie team in Chicago, and he had just opened up, and then I got my blue belt with Junior, and I made a lot of good friends, and it was good, a great environment, great place to train. But then Carlson Junior moved away and I didn't have a black belt to learn from. Now I was just with a couple of purple belts. I was a blue belt. They were purple belts, very good, but I felt like I didn't told me what's going on. Like no one's telling me like, oh, come through and do seminars. I just didn't know. So I told Junior when I finally got a hold of him, since he's not around, I'm going to be leaving and finding something else. And I met Pedro at a seminar through Frank Cucci. I was doing Thai boxing with Frank, and he told me at a seminar, and he told me I could meet Pedro. And that was when I was 18. So when I met Pedro, he just showed me the way, and I never looked back. I said, I'm done. I'm in great terms with Carlson, and Megaton and I are on good days too. So it's all good, but I needed to have somebody that had my back, and was going to be kind of like, not that I had to have him do things for me, but him to tell me what the direction was that I needed. And that was something important to me at the time in my life.
Yeah. Do you think that was something that was different about Master Sauer at that time? Like that he had more of a direction and kind of the curriculum stuff and an idea of how he was building people compared to other academies that you'd gone to before? Did they all kind of have that direction?
Well, Megaton was a straight competitor. As you know, he still is. Like he is a straight competitor, and every practice was just hard. Everything was about just to the end of the day training hard. Not a lot of instruction at all. Nothing about street self-defense, nothing MMA, nothing about like reality of fighting, just sport, judo and jiu-jitsu. And Carlson Jr., he's from the family. So, Pedro not being a Gracie, coming up under the Gracies and having like direct connection to Alio and Hickson, and coming over here hard from Orion and working for the Gracie Academy. He just knew the structure, what needed to be done. And Carlson Jr. is on Carlson Gracie side, the Carlos Gracie side of the family. And again, very sport oriented and very like fight oriented. Whereas like, and I love that. I love that kind of the time I spent there with Carlson Gracie, because I got that flavor. But Pedro just kind of a little older than all of them too, just knew that I needed direction, gave me the guidance. Basically told me, you got to learn in a basic manner first. And I went back to the drawing board and relearned everything. And my first private class with him, I tried to kick his butt. I'm like, I'm going to kick Pedro's butt. This guy, he's not a Gracie. He's not Megaton. And man, he just like, what do you want to learn? And I said, I want to roll. He's like, you got an hour. That's all you want to do? Don't you have questions? And I'm like, nope, I just want to roll. And he's like, okay. And he just put it on me and just teased me. That's when I learned, like, I don't really know any jiu-jitsu. Like I know moves and I'm physical, but I don't know any jiu-jitsu. So that was it. It was the changing point, turning point, and I never.
Good lesson there.
Yeah. He like put his hand on my back and be like, what are you going to do now? How are you going to break my grip? I break it. I thought, oh, I'll just break it. Like how? Couldn't try to break his grip. What about now? The other hand's coming. Come on, watch out. And I'm like trying to fight him, and he just. What about now? I go for your arm. I'm like, I do this. Like, well, then do it. No. Bam, armbar. Just get cool little lessons.
Yeah, it's he just baffles me every time I see him do anything.
It's really strange for me sitting here listening to you talk, Jeff. I think, you know, I've been training for 8 years almost now, but the person that I've seen train jiu-jitsu probably the most is you, alongside Master Sauer in the DVDs and the videos that went out.
In my old academy, that was in my school.
Was it really?
Yeah. And we had only 1-inch zebra mats, and they were rock hard. And he would throw me and practice moves before filming, and I just took a beating, man. But I loved it back then. I was so honored that he asked me to do it with him. And I traveled a lot with him, and I got to be his partner for demonstrations. So I learned jiu-jitsu backwards. Like, I would have to be on point. So as he's teaching, I knew he wants my hand there next. He wants to do this next. And it's funny because I got black mind Joey Deal, who's a lot like that, to a T. Like he can read my mind, what I'm about to go, even if I have never gone to position yet. And I got to learn jiu-jitsu backwards like that, and see the receiving side while he taught, that it was like so easy for me to go back and say, no, that's wrong, because I feel that feels nothing like Pedro's move. When Pedro did it to me, it felt like this. When you, it feels like this. So yeah, it was. I'm grateful for all those years.
Yeah, so yeah, good experience and feeling it as well. Do you find you learn it better from? How do you kind of feel like you learn stuff? Do you feel like you learn it best from feeling it like that, or like kind of being shown it, or someone explaining to you, or what? How does it kind of work for you?
I think both. I like listening to Pedro talk about the move, and that kind of paints the picture of it. But I like the slow demonstration of it, because if you see it once, you watch. The next time you see it happen, you watch the next time you see it happen, you watch the lower body. The next time you see it happen, you watch the whole move again. And sometimes you change angles and you watch and you see, and you know, I'm the guy that I'll say, Professor, the move you just did, the last time you showed it, your toe like this. Then you showed it, your toes were on the mat. It's like, oh, you could do either one. Which one do you prefer? It's like, let's see. I don't know what my toes were doing. You know, so he'll do the move a few times and be like, yeah, you're right. My toes were like that. Yeah, that's the better way. I'm like, okay. Because like I'm seeing some moves that are maybe, I like to see the details that might not even be so important. And I think that's where jiu-jitsu evolves a little. We can look at we all see the major movements, but what is the little things that we can't really see? And I know the invisible jiu-jitsu, like, you know, of course, the setups and the counters and the traps that we set, but mechanically, there's things that our body does that I don't think we all always notice. So I like to explore the move, like the anatomy of the move. Yeah, it's like that you can solve a problem really quick. I can't get my leg here. I can't get my leg there. I'm like, well, put your knee outside first, and then you can. That solves it. Or point your toes, and then that'll open up your hip more, and then you'll be able to pass your leg. And it's just little things like that. That's what I really love about, you know, breaking down moves. And Pedro's a genius with it, so nobody better to watch than him.
Yeah, I think there's still moves on some of the old white to blue DVDs or whatever that we'll watch again and again now, and still, like, every time we see him go, oh, on that move, the same thing you were saying, like, oh, you did this and your foot was like, you did it two slightly different ways, and what's the reason? Because I don't ever feel like he hasn't done it for a reason.
Yeah, and in filming with him, even recently, we reshot a lot of self-defense a couple of years ago. We were supposed to remaster the white to blue, and you know, Mike Horhan is like, all right, Professor, just show us, just start with the basic escape, basic upa. And Pedro starts out, we want to just keep nice short clips, like shoot the move. Say, okay, you know, here we are in the mount position. Little Jeff's got his hand on my neck. I'm going to trap the arm here. I'm going to bridge, or I'm going to upa, I'm going to roll. And then look what I could do. And he's passing the guard. And then from here, be careful. The guy might push here. So I'm going to take the arm. And Mike's like, it's like 15 minutes later, and Mike's like, all right, Pedro, now go back and just show Upa escape. That's great, but just show the Upa. So then Pedro's like, oh, guys, trap the arm, trap the leg, bridge and roll just like this. Like, how's that, Mike? Mike's like, that was good, Pedro, but maybe like teeth, you know, like, oh man, it's comical. We have so many outtakes, original White Purples, where he's trying to get himself right. And he's the monitor fixing his gi, and man, I look fat. I'm like, Pedro, you don't look fat. He's like, man, I look dark. You didn't look so dark. I said, you're Brazilian. I'm German. You might have some German in you, but you're not you're Brazilian.
Yeah. So good.
So argue about moves. I'm like, you just taught the move yesterday like this. Isn't that the one you want to show? No, not right. I'm like, but it is. Am I losing my mind? Well, you could do that too. I'm like, well, what should I do? I want to know what, like, I was just such a young kid. Like, I don't want to be confused. What is the move? It's like, they're both moves. So laid back.
We always say to, and you guarantee you'll have had the same thing. We were saying, like, to everybody that's been on, we've said there's always that moment when we go to a seminar with Pedro, and there's a few black belts there, and he'll show a move. Someone will ask a question, he'll show a move, and you see the black belts looking at each other going, he's never showed me that before. I haven't seen that before.
Man, I just learned this move. Imagine it took me 45 years to learn this move. Now you guys get it, and the first day of jiu-jitsu, you guys are learning that same move. How much better our life could be if we learned this move, 10 years ago. Okay. That's the beauty of it. That's why if you don't learn all the other moves, those tricks, they never make any sense. They don't settle in, right? I told the guys, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I taught a class, and my belief is that if a move like a triangle or an arm or a kimura or a choke is not working, the solution isn't to find another variation of that, become better at the finish. And well, I never catch anybody in triangles anymore. So that's because you're not setting it up the right way. You got to find better ways to set it up. Well, how? I do this, does that, and he feels it coming. And it's like, well, maybe just change the direction. Don't go for the triangle so much. So the process of getting the moves is what has to adjust, and the game. But the mechanics of the move, man, if you could get it, a good triangle should not have a real good escape. A good choke, you should be done. If you're escaping, my arms got tired, my legs got tired, the details were off, things like that. So don't discount, think that you have to move on. You've got to look at the high percentage. Wrestling, single legs, double legs, these things, basic body locks, everybody wins medals with those things. Basic moves. Why? What's the difference? Well, because they just become that good at them.
So what do you do with like with your guys in your academy? Do you have like your fundamentals program, and then they move on to different levels after that, or do you have just a straight open rank, or how do you do it at the moment?
Yeah, I have a fundamental class. It's 25 classes, it rotates, and that's available on my website too. Like Pedro, it's just Pedro Sauer basics. It's I just organized it to where like I might have a class that's like open sweeps from a kneeling opponent, sweeps from a standing opponent, or mount attack series 1, mount escapes. They're positionally focused, and the way I categorize them, it's like you can start at any time, and you're going to walk in to each class, and you can start on what day a new person joins the fundamentals. They're going to get an introduction to the move and why they're doing, and the street effectiveness of that move, and then they can get out and train, and they'll get trained consistently. 2.5 months later, they'll see the move again. So I have the fundamental program, but I kind of went back and forth over the years whether I wanted to somebody strictly to fundamentals before coming to like a mixed level class, like my mixed level class where I used to say once they've had each class once, they can now come to that. It's pretty hard to monitor that. And it's also like, I don't know how happy I would have been if my first time like visiting Pedro's Academy, I was told I wasn't allowed to take Pedro's class. So Mike Horahan kind of changed my mind on that. He's like, look, if somebody walks in and signs up on day one and they get a gi, you know, they can jump into Master Sauer's class. How cool is that your first day, you're not going to remember anything. I'm like, yeah, so I have some kind of looseness there that my recommendation to people is take fundamentals for a while. If they're just like, oh, I really just want to take your class, they'll say, okay, great. We'll come on Monday night. I'll be teaching, make sure you have a gi, make sure you get somebody that can help you out. And, but I'll say, just keep in mind, if you're a little lost, you got to make sure that the fundamentals maintained before you come. So we're just kind of on a case by case as far as that goes. Some people can handle it. Some people can be in fundamentals for years and still just don't even come to mid. They can roll and do all this other stuff, like coming and doing moves. And I'm like, well, okay, if you're not going to roll, you're not going to go on to the next belt. So you're gonna have to learn how to put it down a bit, So that I try to, and we encourage everybody along, talk about their progress, where they're at, what they need to be working on to get ready for their next belt. It's not just technique. It's not just roll. Good combination of everything.
So thinking back to those DVDs and the white to blue, blue to purple stuff that were put together, is there anything from that you would change now, Jeff, after so many years of practicing and the moves evolving? Is there anything that you just throw away from those syllabus or keep it all?
I would not throw away any of it. I've just adapted, if and I can't think of a specific move, but there's always going to be a better way. There's always going to be a better way for us to make things work better, but on the basis of like fundamental mechanics have to be there. Passing the guard with the thumb, stacking, right? I do that 9 out of 10 times. The only time I don't do that is when I can't secure my grip, so I turn it under and I hold low, and the person can't stop that. And that's like, but so I wouldn't make that. Yes, it works and it's a lot harder to defend, but I think you'll have a lot less success passing like that every time. So I pass the standard way most of the time. If I get away with it, good. If I can't secure grip and anchor, then I pull it low and hold like that and continue the stack. So little things like that are just little evolutions of people's games that you do. And but at the end of the day, the moves, they're timeless. That's why I don't change them. There's things I do. I look at it like this. We have our foundation, and that's our basic move that we have to have. We got to have all the do's and don'ts from each position: offensive, defensive, escapes, survivability. All of those things got to be packaged in this. Like, this is jiu-jitsu. Then you've got your innovation, which is your middle period, where everybody takes their individual growth. Some people like to become leg lockers. Other people become really good at kimura. Other, are really dangerous back. Other are really dangerous from the top. But then you have your preservation, and the preservation, I feel, is like we have the responsibility as teachers to make sure that that Elio Gracie, Carlos Gracie, and all of those students of theirs, like that lives on their legacy. If we don't do it, because we're like a bridge, my generation is like a bridge generation. If I don't preach this at all, preserve Elio Gracie self-defense, and I don't preserve the traditional philosophies, then it just gets lost by my students, and then their students will never even know that we were from the Gracie lineage. So, but if we get caught up in the history and make that our only focus, nobody ever improves and becomes their own individual, through the process. So foundation, innovation, preservation, and those are like in that order. And those three things, I think, if those three things are mastered, then you can become a black belt.
It's a really, really nice way of thinking about it. But I will share with you that I die inside when I turn up to a class and it's the foot in the belt escape from north south.
Bill hates that one.
Because you can't get your feet back there, or what? Or you like?
No, some days it works better than others, but yeah, just that foot in the belt. It ends up being just one toe in the belt. But yeah, it's all good fun.
Longest of legs.
I mean, there's probably, I don't know, let's just round it to like 5%. We're talking 160 moves in those white to blue, blue to purple.
Yeah.
There's probably 5% of the moves that I don't do. They never work. They never worked for me. I taught them, or they just became less, because when I was a blue belt and a purple belt and even a brown belt, I try to stay as much on rhythm of curriculum as I can. As I become a fighter and more of a fighter, more of a competitor, have my own success, I start sharing my rendition of things. And I never say, oh, no, don't do this move anymore. But, now fast forward, 4th degree black belt, I kind of have my idea of what I want my blue belt students to be. And every single one of them, Pedro Sauer would be proud of. And that's kind of my blanket of what would you call it? Like, acceptance. Like if I know he's happy with them, it doesn't matter which variation of which guard pass they do. If it works better for this guy because he's 300 pounds and he can't quite pull that move off, we'll give him an option and he'll make that work. Just things like that, But also, I think Pedro, like, I go back and I watch blue to purple and I'm always like, oh, I forgot all about that move. I gotta go back and revisit it, and I'll pull it out. I'm like, guys, here's an old school move, and it'll totally reinvent that position. And so it pays to watch the videos, it pays to look back. Even myself, as much each, and I get that in like a series, and I want to develop the front headlock series and my back series and whatever the position, triangle setups, and just going down the line, I come up with things that like on my daily are part of my life. Whereas like the foot in the belt escape, I'm not caught in that position a lot, where I feel like that's my way out because I can get out using a more basic method. So maybe I just don't teach that because whatever, it gets kind of lost in the mix. I shouldn't say I don't teach it. I don't teach it very often, but then I'll watch one of my others who got really long legs, just showing it to another guy. And the next thing you know, guys are trying to escape the position like that on me. And just down the line, it just kind of finds its way into the mix. Yeah. There's so many, or like this and the chop. This is preservation. Self-defense to me has a different, little overall different feel. I would take myself, I really, really love Henry Gracie's outlook on fighting, the street tactics, and being somebody that fought, being in somebody that's been in situations where like I've been able to control and avoid being fight. The scenario of self-defense, getting grabbed, these are attacks. But what happens when you're face to face and actually have to fight somebody? This is a little bit different than the surprise attack, right? So self-defense has to have this very big, broad outlook when it comes to jiu-jitsu. And at some point, we have to not be afraid to talk about, say, the F word, that you might actually have to fight. And your back is to the wall and the guy's going to hurt you. What are you going to do? You cannot just hope to grab you and then use a move to get out. You don't want his hands on you, So we have to have that whole outlook, the shift of mindset for self-defense, self-protection. But yeah, I mean, I survived my whole fight based on self-defense mentality. When Master Sauer picked me up and tried to slam me, I make the little hook. You know, I land on top of him. Can you imagine if Matt and I never make the hook, how hard my head would hit the ground? The guy's a monster. So, and that's just, that was, I never trained that. I never thought, Matt's going to probably pick me up and try to slam me in my head. It was just instinct from years and years and years of doing it. And it's the same thing with just punch the guard, and you know, it all translates, right? It all translates to grappling, because if somebody can punch you, they can anchor. If they can anchor, they can pass. All that good stuff.
As you're bringing people through your academy, one of the things that I notice is that people, obviously they get good at certain moves, so they tend to try and do those moves over and over again. But you see that when people roll, they don't always explore, you know, like some of the sweeps on the blue to purple syllabus, you know, like a lot of the stand-up sweeps. A lot of people prefer to pass, you know, on the ground, and I think it kind of limits them. It kind of, you know, it closes down what it is that they're practicing week after week. Do you ever like set some random rules, like you can only pass guard standing tonight, or do you ever do anything like that just to make sure people keep everything fresh?
Yeah, so I would say when I'm teaching a series, like the other day I taught a, and the reason I taught it was because I pulled it off on one of my good guys, and I was like, I'm gonna. This happened in day class. I'm gonna teach that at night, because it kind of from De La Riva, but I don't do a whole lot from De La Riva. I have a few things, but it was like feed the hand behind the leg, hold the collar, reach up. It was just a cool little like move that I used to do a lot of, and I don't think it's anywhere on the syllabus, but it's out there. You know, people a very similar sweep. I taught the sweep. People were getting it right away, so I right away showed some things that could happen. You know, could prevent it. Like I don't normally do that, but let's look at stop it, so our guys can be challenged to kind of like make the solution. You know, find solutions for it. Well, during our guard, we did King of the Guard, and that was the person on the bottom got to get their grip, feed the hand, and put the person in kind of the worst case scenario, and they go live from there. And we did lots of rotations, and now I can see people wanting to attempt to sweep because they felt it worked for them. So I think just as teachers sometimes, and I don't know how to do it, it reminded me like how important it is that if we want people doing a double ankle grab sweep, something like that, and then we need to create a drill that kind of forces them to do that sweep. And you got to walk around, but come on, no. Yeah, but I like to do this. I know this is not time for your favorite moves, right? It's not time for your favorite moves. That's very hard. Like, you know, I felt like a lot of pressure growing up. When I would teach, I would have guys right on my tail. You know, I was a blue belt. People sign up and they're like, almost to a blue belt. Like, oh man, I hope I get my purple. Purple. And no, belt wise was my mentality that I better be better than them. So I always was just racing to be better. And it's like I walk around and I got to be, when I start telling everybody what I expect them to do, I also have to know that like I got to be able to, at some point in their time with me, they know that I'm capable of doing it myself. And then they gain that trust. It's like, trust work. I know you like that sweep, but forget about that sweep. Focus on this sweep. We're only doing this. You handicap the drill, and you tell people for 3-minute rounds, close guard drill. But person on the bottom, all you can do is collar choke. Person on top, all you can do is defend. You cannot even pass. And the person on the bottom, all you can do is collar choke. Any version of a collar choke. This, but that's it. And then you see some people getting tapped, some people not. Then after a few short rounds, top and bottom, people's grips get tired. Okay, now you have the option to triangle or armbar. That's it. No sweeps still. Person on top, you can only pass the guard if they go for an armbar or triangle. See, like if you segment the drill, you funnel them down the line of improvement. And then, then you say, okay, let's go live, and everybody's doing their own thing. So it's not as a student, they got to know, like, hey, if I really want to be good at this, I better put my own time in and be self-motivated, because you can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. Is that the saying? You can show them everything they need to do, drill them, but at the end of the day, if open mat comes around and they just go off on a tangent and do their own thing, they're going to always be in that safe zone. I got a guy who only likes being in cross. Pedro had a guy this guy, Utah, who never would be on his back. It'd be like a turtle on his shell, and just like nothing, not effective at all. And you didn't want to be on the bottom of him. So back then, Pedro should be like, hey, you can only play guard. I'm sure he tried. Say, okay, I'll play guard. Then Pedro doesn't look, and he goes right back to the top. I got guys like that. They'll never want to be on the bottom. And I'm like, hey, they'll shove me back. I'm like, you don't have to push me back. I'm going to my back, You don't have to shove me down. I'll go. It's all good. Yeah, it's tough because everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
How do you this is something interesting that comes up, like we see it a bit with the enthusiasm of like a new student for jiu-jitsu, and they're kind of trying to consume everything out there, and that famous quote that every instructor loves, like, I just saw this move on YouTube, and but they're consuming everything. Like, I worry sometimes maybe that they're over consuming stuff and they're getting confused by not, like you're saying, like the fundamentals. And I'm trying to steer them and say, look, go with the, look at these fundamentals, then you'll understand that stuff you see a bit better, because you'll have a good base to understand it. But how do you kind of guide people to sort of keep them on track with kind of the fundamentals and stuff, and not getting too lost? Because I feel like sometimes it almost sometimes puts people off jiu-jitsu, because they go, oh, it's too much, I'm never going to understand it.
If I notice like something being pretty commonly done, and I'll speak up and say, hey, come on now, don't, if it's something really off the wall, I'll just tell them, like, dude, don't do it. Like, are you doing that? Oh, I was trying this move, I'm trying that move. I'm like, yeah. So then, like, I remember, like, okay, tomorrow when I train with him, I'm going to put myself in a spot where he tries to move, and then I'm going to show him what's up, and give him a little, like, prevent it, so he sees how it's prevented. Or I'll tell him, try the move on me, or let me see you try the move. And it's not all the time, but this was when YouTube first became a big resource for learning. It was a lot more. And I would be teaching a class, and I would look over and see guys, grown men, I shouldn't say kids, but much younger than me, drilling a different move. I said, what are you doing? I'm like, from here, I like to do this. Yeah, but that's not my class. If that's what you want to do, then go do that at your house, because everyone's looking at you like, why are those guys doing that move? And then they start trying it. And I have to and they'll say, like, ooh, that move you just showed is the such and such. And I'm like, what? Like, you saw the video too? I'm like, no, I didn't see the video. This is just jiu-jitsu. I've seen the move before, but I don't know the name. I don't know what the name is. The name's called this. And you could also do this from there. I'm like, no. So I used to like put fires out all day about YouTube. And then I just said, you know what? I'm just going to let it ride. And if people don't learn, they don't progress. And it catches on after a while. It's kind of becoming a thing. Like, my crew now, they're not big video watchers. A lot of my solid like, they'll see a video and think it's cool and like watch it, so it's in their brain, but they're not religious about it. I think they'll like when my fundamental class is available online, because it's categorized and they can make the connections a little bit on some of the fundamentals, and it just tells a story. Imagine if you pick up a book about business, or something. I don't read a lot, but you start at any chapter and you could pretty much pick up where you're at and learn something. Whereas like if you pick up a novel and you pick up in the middle of it, you have no idea what the backstory is. So fundamental class is kind of, in my opinion, has got to be structured that each class tells its own story, and maybe it shows a connection to other classes. And you'll see, like, as you start watching some of my videos in the future, if you guys, just go on, like I said, it's going to be free for the remainder of 2020 at least, just because I don't have a lot on it yet, fundamentals, but I'm going to keep adding. You'll notice sometimes when I'm teaching the fundamental class, I'll say, and you'll also see this like in class 20, you'll notice I'll talk more about this, but so if you want a good reference to what I'm talking about here, go back and do that. Whereas in my normal day where I'm teaching that class, I would also tell the students, like, don't worry, there's another class coming up where you're going to get more details about the triangle. This class is not about the details of the triangle. This class is simply showing you the general outlook of the triangle. So yeah, just telling the story start to finish is very, like, I think the best way to do it.
So most of the people coming through your doors, Jeff, are they coming looking just purely for jiu-jitsu, or with your reputation in the mixed martial arts, are they coming in to fight? What's the mix coming through your doors?
For years, it's been both. People want to fight. People think they want to fight. Put it that way. They want to be fighters. They all want to be fighters. I just, yeah. But now we just have a conversation. Parents want to come with their kids, want to get started. I think, for myself, I don't have an interest in like training fighters, like taking on an existing fighter from like another team and bringing them level and managing them and doing things like I used to do. I just these days really want to focus on my student base, just making a good difference in the community, things like that. And if somebody's trained over time, they're going to be able to fight skills. If they decide, if they're a team member and a lifelong, guy and have my love and support, then for sure, then let's go fight somebody. I think it's a good thing to experience a fight, but I don't want to be a fight farm and have a camp like I used to.
And so pure jiu-jitsu student walks through. I mean, what's your top tips for being an ideal student?
Well, a lot of people come through and they don't know what they want. They'll come in and say, "Oh, I heard this is a good place to come learn, and my friend does kickboxing here." And I'm like, well, here's the different programs, and we direct them. The ideal jiu-jitsu students. Sorry, I'm yawning, tired. I did like 10 rounds today, 10 5-minute rounds. I have not trained like that in a while, so I'm still sweating. You said what's the ideal jiu-jitsu student walking through the door?
Yeah, I mean, can you spot a good one? Can you spot a good one from the moment they arrive?
Yeah, we can speculate that this person's probably going to be good. Usually they're a little bit less. They're a little more silent, a little more humble. They're just happy to be there. They're not throwing the word fight around. They're not telling you about all the street fights they've been in. They're not telling you about how all their past experience. They're usually just like excited to be there, get the uniform, get a hat, be humble. And, yeah, I mean, but some people I think are not going to be the perfect student. And then you're 6 months in, like, man, remember where you were 6 months ago? I had no idea you were going to get this far. Like you're going to lose 50 pounds and be training on the mat here every day and doing what you're doing. Like, so I don't want to be the judge the book by its cover a lot of times, but you can tell, I can tell a lot of people that come in and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, okay. Sign them up. And you know what? Prepare their cancellation because next month they're going to probably quit.
Do you feel like sometimes people come in a bit like that because they don't know, especially with, again, with your background and stuff like that, do you think they don't know what else to say and how else to act kind of thing?
Well, yeah, that, or maybe they maybe think that's what I want to hear, but I don't deal with a lot of walk-ins. Years ago, I decided that probably best I don't have the financial conversation with my students that much, you know. So my partner Chuck and my other brown belt Kyle that works for me full time, they handle all the accounts and stuff. Leave me out of it. If I have somebody on my 5 months delinquent, first of all, they better not be 5 months delinquent. That's because that's on them for not getting it handled. But if they were and they slipped through the cracks, I don't want to know. I don't want to be like, I don't want to be, know that I've got these people in class that are scamming me and not paying, or whatever, you know, taking advantage, I should say. So I'd rather just like when I'm doing jujitsu, I do jujitsu. So I try not to worry about them. Of course, sometimes there's issues that come up, like with this COVID thing. People are like, hey, you know, we're not going to reactivate, and we were going to, but then you decided you're not going to run this class and we paid through the COVID. So can we get a fund or something like that? And we're like, yeah, of course. I don't want to I want to do good business, you know, but most people aren't like that. They're digging in and they're going to battle for us, you know?
Yeah.
It is great community. It's something that's come up on a lot of the other podcasts that we've done. It's, you know, tends to just be a great bunch of people that like-minded and looking out for each other, which is nice to be around.
And that's especially if we can get them into that like month 3 or 4, you know, like if a lot of people that like aren't lifers yet, you know, they're not so like sold out that this is going to be their lifestyle and this is something to do. A lot of those, you guys there?
Yeah.
All right, said I got low battery, but I got a charger somewhere. A lot of those guys, they don't know what they got yet, you know, and when they don't know what they got, you can't expect them to make maybe the same sacrifice we would. I keep getting phone calls. One of my realtors is calling me. I'm looking at so many buildings. Not good.
Yeah. We had similar in that the places we train won't let us back yet, and then we had to last minute find, because we could go back to training, find somewhere that would let us run classes till the other places will take us back. And
did I flip or no?
No, you're good.
You're good.
I'm not upside down, or am I?
No, you're good.
Yeah, same as before.
Weird. Not on my screen. You guys are upside down. There it is. Yeah.
We just do headstands to talk to you.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
I don't look upside down to people.
No,
Nope.
You're looking good at this.
My phone. I'm trying to close out all my windows that open for some reason. But yeah. Whew.
So you run the big summer camps, right, down in Florida?
Yeah.
How many years you been doing that for now? That looks like a great event.
Wow, I just had my 5th. Man, it's one of my favorite things. And my Florida one, my February one, is now in jeopardy. It's probably not going to happen. By now, I would have already had 75 people signed up for it. But I'm going to flip my phone. Tell me if I'm still good. Good?
Yeah, you're all good.
This is better. I'm just going to sit and hold my phone because I can't look at myself upside down and everybody looks funny. Man, they're so fun. I had like 25 different teams from around the country, everybody getting together, and I got lots of guest teachers and just a good time. But yeah, now it's in jeopardy. So hopefully by 2022 we'll be back. Maybe later in the year, maybe later in 2021 we'll be able to do something somewhere. I had a fall one this coming fall that I had scheduled for Tennessee in a huge cabin that sleeps 54 people and has like two hot tubs, its own pool house, its own little like 1,200 square foot like multi-purpose building next to the cabin, and that's the only thing on this this lot up in the mountains. So everybody was getting pumped about that. I'd go out like a week early, and we were going to stock the fridge. It was going to be all inclusive, food, everything that everybody could want. I was going to stock all the fridges, and we had a couple guys that were going to, run the grill and cook. And I thought that was going to be fun, but I had to cancel that plan too.
Another year.
Yeah, Pedro's got these camps. I don't want to ever intrude on Pedro's camps because, he's before me and this is his lifestyle, well before mine. So I want to support all of his camps. He's got his May and his November camp. Those are priorities to me. August or September, if I could do something like a different price point, a different concept that would never, or February, that doesn't really get in the way of anything he's doing. That's why I'm doing them. I need a way for me to make my mark too, and teach people outside of my team and outside of the association and stuff. And it's just good camaraderie, it's good vacation. I like Florida.
You get quite a lot of people from other teams coming along then, lots of people outside the association.
Yeah, tons of them. There's a lot from inside of my team and inside of Pedro's association. So the association is, I got 5 affiliates, and they're all students of mine. Nobody is a representative of mine that hasn't been a student of mine at some point for an extended period of time. So my students all support one way, shape, or form and bring people. My first couple, I only had like 10 or so of my students, not even 8, because they learn from me all the time. But when we moved it from northern Wisconsin to Florida, next thing you know, 30 guys, because they don't care if it's me teaching, they just want to get to the warm weather. And then I have, like I said, I have guest instructors. I had Mike Diaz, Cole Miller is a UFC veteran, superstar, like amazing talent. He's American Top Team. He came and taught a session. My black belt Adam Miller taught a session. Like I said, Mike Diaz, Joey Deal, tons of people. We all dig in, and we pick a theme for the weekend. Like this last one was all kind of front headlock and crucifix based. And I just have a meeting with all my instructors, tell them, look, you're going to each get like a little 45 out section to an hour to do your thing. Just keep it in the wheelhouse. Let's keep everybody leaving here really good at front headlocks, no matter what their level is. And when we got home about a week later, we started hearing about COVID. We just missed it. Man, that would have been a horrible camp to cancel. I would have been refunding like $20,000, $25,000. And don't even think I had the money. I think I spent it already. Who knows? Paying bills and what could possibly go wrong? Pandemic.
Yeah, it's a bit left field, wasn't it? It wasn't
on
everybody's radar. I don't know. I feel like I almost jinxed it, because I feel like about 2 months. What was it? November. I was sitting around with my partner, my girlfriend, and I was saying, what would really mess us up right now is if we had some sort of pandemic. That would be a nightmare. Like, we're just not prepared for anything like that. And then lo and behold, a couple of months later. Yeah. So I almost feel like it was my fault. So sorry, world.
So crazy. Yeah. And what a coincidence, right? Good thing you didn't say that like on social media. Everybody's been like, you knew it. You could have told us. You could have warned us.
Yeah, I didn't work on the virus, I promise. I'm not that smart.
Yeah. So you guys, how many students do you guys have going right now at your guys' academy before shutdown?
What's the numbers, Rob? Rob's the numbers man.
I think we were looking at about 120.
Good.
Kids and stuff.
Yeah.
That's not 120 anymore.
Oh, right. Yeah. But Pedro told me early on one of my live streams, I got him on, and he's like, just remember, guys, human beings do not want to live in caves. They're not going to let this last forever. At some point they're going to just come out and get back to it. And, hopefully like there'll be some good success with the vaccine and people can start feeling comfortable, and then we can start hammering business again. And maybe I'll make my way out across the pond.
Yeah, sure.
I want to go to Wales and visit. Brett Johns is a friend of mine, and I want to go to visit him and train with him. Who is his? Do you guys know Brett Johns, right? The UFC fighter Brett Johns. He's from Wales.
No.
Oh man, he's amazing, and he's a bantamweight, but he's up and coming. He's in the UFC, and he's also got another fighter, Aiden. I think Aiden James is his name. He's a black belt too. Brett's a really good judo guy, but I got to train with Aiden at one of the UFCs I was at recently where Brett was fighting. Brett didn't train because he was just getting ready for his fight. I got to train with him and he was good training. So I always want to, those are good guys. They're really nice people. And I told him someday, he told me someday when he's having a fight camp, they'd bring me out and maybe get a little training in together. And I thought, yeah, maybe someday I'll have a reason to cross the water and come over there. I want to get something going in Ireland too, and just make a little tour. I loved Ireland. I was there for the UFC 2 years ago, and not 2 years ago, but also years ago. And just a lot of places I want to go visit more and train more. But now we got to get all this travel stuff fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome to have you over if you are in this neck of the woods.
And what part of town are you guys? You're
We're close to London.
close to London.
Yeah, 40 minutes from London.
Yeah, I've been to London. I've also been to Exeter.
Okay.
Yeah, the other side. We're the other side of London.
It's a unique time because I flew into Heathrow and we drove there for my cousin Pat fought. He fought Robbie Olivier, and then we had to drive back in the middle of the night, and the guy who was driving us was drunk, and it was in the middle of a storm, and it couldn't even see the road. And I'm like, dude, I'm gonna take over and drive. And he was like pounding Red Bulls, telling me he's fine. I'm like, what are you doing, man? Or energy drinks. But it was a weird experience, but it was a cool place because it seemed really old and like, I had some fun there, but man, some strange people. I got about the nights I was there, and I wanted to get back to society.
We'll keep you safer than that if you come again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get away from the Exeter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty far west.
It was like, it took forever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good 4 hours from London Heathrow at least. So yeah. Yeah, no, we'd love to have you over anytime that you decide that you want to come over, then you're welcome.
Yeah, cool.
Where's on your bucket list to train, Jeff? Obviously, you've been spoiled for so long training with Master Sauer. Is there any places still that you'd like to get to?
There's nobody that like I'm like, oh God, I got to get out there and train. But there's people that I've trained with already that I look forward to training with again. Marcelo Garcia and I started building a really good friendship. I brought him in for a fight camp, and he helped me get ready for my fight with Takeya Mizugaki. And, he'd also been back a couple of times to do seminars. I love Marcelo's style. When he came to train me, he was like, we'd met through Mark Bocek, who was an MMA fighter, and at a UFC. And I was talking with him, and he said, yeah, I can come to a seminar. And he was just at his peak, just competing so much. And he thought he was coming into like this MMA gym. And then me and him rolled, and he was like, man, I didn't know like you're like a real jiu-jitsu guy. I'm like, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy is more than you're a jiu-jitsu guy. I'm like, I'm jiu-jitsu to the core too, man. So anyways, I got close with him, he stayed at my house and we built a good friendship. We got a lot of hard training. He taught me so much cool stuff that fits right in my style. And he never tried to ask me to represent him or join his team. Actually, he him and Pedro both together helped get me re-invited back to Abu Dhabi in Spain in 2009. And me and Marcelo, he shared his room with me, and there was no one else from my group, so I just hung out with him and all the Alliance guys and Fabio Gurgel, and they're all cool, Cobrinha, but nobody also was like, "Oh, join my team." So I like that about that. I was able to just train and be with them and be with Marcelo for the week, and then go home and not feel obligated. I love training with Hoyler. And I love Henzo, because Henzo is like of more than just go learn moves. Like, I love how he thinks about fighting, so I want to be around his charismatic mindset when it comes to fighting. It was cool. I got to have a nice FaceTime with him like a year ago. He FaceTimed me from a traffic jam, and we were talking about fighting. He was telling me he can help me get in ONE FC and stuff. And I just like his spirit, the way he thinks about fighting and stuff like that. But man, I'm ever really excited about is, to the point, is just to get more time with Pedro. Like, that sums it up, man. I really just love picking his brain, asking him about things I've been working on, getting his take on stuff, asking him what he's learned from other guys. I know he travels and people show him stuff, and then he like, that's cool. And he learns and he perfects it. So what's new? What's on your list? And it just kind of inspires me. So I really just seek him out. I don't have like a coach or somebody that I just want to like drill me and bring me down the line. I really just love spending my time with him if I can.
Perfectly understandable.
Yeah.
He understands me, and I understand him. So it doesn't complicate my style. If he says it, I believe it. And it's just, I don't know, as time goes on, if Pedro were to move to Brazil, if, this kind of thing continues, everybody's getting older. Like, I want to look back and never wish I had spent more time, training with my master. So I just seek him out.
Perfect.
Yeah. Perfect. I think it's probably a perfect place to stop there as well. Is there anything else you want to like promote or talk about, Jeff? Is there anything? I know you said about stuff. And
I think I like everybody. There's no payment necessary or anything like that. My website's going to launch soon. It's just a fun little project. It's not no world beater thing or anything like that right now. It's just jeffcurran.tv, and it's just going to start sharing my style and my rendition of jiu-jitsu with everybody in different categories, from no-gi, MMA, even striking, fundamentals, and things like that will be on there. But the library is going to start small and grow over time, and until I feel it's something I can start putting a price on, it's going to be free. There's so much free content out there. I think more than the moves, it's just how I'm categorizing them is going to maybe be helpful for people that are teaching a fundamental program and trying to find a way to like categorize it. Mine has proven to be effective for me. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't for other people, but the jeffcurran.tv, just put your name and email in, and then you'll be notified when the site launches. You'll have to go on and create your little profile. You won't have to put any payment information in or anything like that. Just go on and enjoy it.
Cool.
very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then give me feedback, and then I'm going to try to find a way to, I don't know how, I can't do everything time somebody says, hey, can you show this move? But I'm going to categorize emails that I'm getting for people asking certain positions. And then I will respond to the ones that are getting the most traction. And I'll put out some more videos and stuff like that. Once you're a member, you'll have access and you'll get notified when we add new stuff.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Fantastic.
Nice.
So I should get 4 notifications when we end this call.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys
I'm on it. I'm on it now, Jeff. I'm on it now.
He's already there. Look.
Yeah.
it's gonna be cool. gonna be fun.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure
So far, filmed, there's fun, and I'll let you go. Yeah, fundamentals. Once it launches this week, the BJJ, or I should say early next week. I'm a week behind. BJJ fundamentals will be on there, 25 classes. Then I'm going to launch the striking basics, upper body and lower body offense and defense. Then I'm going to launch one of my first series, which will be my front headlock series, volume 1. And, you know, physically, I'm not at my best in filming this. It was during the middle of quarantine when I'm getting fat, but it's all good. The material's there. And then I'm going to have another section where I add vintage training and like old training in mine and preparation. I'm going to get into a syllabus of MMA stuff like takedowns, MMA, ground and pound, striking from the bottom, a whole bunch of offbeat stuff that I think people will enjoy and, you know, working into their training. But then just also the overall jiu-jitsu program, you know, what my purple belt exam looks like, what my blue belt test looks like, all the fun stuff.
Sounds good. I think all of us are signed up already, aren't we?
You got
I heard on my email. Yeah. Oh, I sent one of yours to trash. It's not trash.
That'll be me. That'll be me.
Bill. I just sent bills to trash. What is it? No, it's not your email. It's just a notification. Okay. Awesome, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, it's been awesome.
Great. No, it's great. It's good for our guys to keep them in touch with jiu-jitsu when they haven't been out of train, to, you know, speak, you know, to watch us speak to all you guys, and people have been saying how great it is for them to, you know, the fact that how generous all of the black belts, you know, you included, have been during this time of talking to us. And we kind of started doing the podcast as something to keep us in touch with it, because yeah, I don't watch a ton of jiu-jitsu videos, but I get to talk to a different black belt every week, and it's made a massive difference to me whilst we haven't been out of train. So yeah, no, we really appreciate it. Yeah, and you know, I appreciate having a voice. You know, Pedro Sauer's means the world to me. So when I can speak with any of his relatives and just share my love for him and, you know, his jiu-jitsu, and, you know, at the same time maybe share a little bit about myself, I'm all about it. So I appreciate it too, guys. Wicked. Right, well, what I'll do is I'll stop the live stream here. Thanks guys for tuning in, those that have been watching live, and then we'll obviously, this will go on YouTube and all those other good places, and yeah,